Welcome back to Growth by the Numbers, the show where we break down what it really takes to grow smarter, scale efficiently, and turn numbers into strategy. So last week we talked a little bit about, something that's kind of close and dear to me, right? Taking companies and taking it from like I've got an idea to building something truly scalable, sell ready, um, and kind of what it takes to get through that, right? Understanding profitability, gross margins, some of the simple things that every business needs to move forward. Well, today I'm going to talk about something a little bit even more basic. Having worked with so many different stages of companies, guys that have the idea and want to run with it, partnering with different advisors, the guys that may have finally started something but have no clue where to go, right? Google Maps isn't telling them where to go, right? They don't have that vision. They don't understand what it takes. We'll talk about a couple key nuances that it really takes to drive into that next level. Um, so let's just get started right in it. Most founders or most people that have an idea stop there. They stop at the idea. They build it way too much in their mind and their mindset that we have to have the whole plane built and ready to go before we take off. And that's just simply not the case. It's better to follow action than inaction. Most entrepreneurs, most business owners, most people just shoot from the hip, and they're not afraid to talk to people. They're not afraid to get out there and be scrappy. And those are the ones that I've seen make it. They're willing to just do what it takes to get the revenue, to get their name out there, to understand their brand, understand, what it takes to drive that idea. And all too often I see business owners or founders just get scared and they don't take the action. They build it in their mind. I got it, I got it, I got it, I got it. And then they fail. They don't want to take that step. It's scary. It's scary. But what's the worst case scenario? What I've seen, right? And this is a philosophy I've taken everywhere. The worst that can happen is someone can say no. So why not ask? And if we follow that philosophy or that mindset into everything we do on a business basis, why not ask? Why not ask for the sale or the close, right? Why not ask what it would take to help this company into the next spot? Someone clicked on a link, they heard about you, they've done something, they're curious. So why not ask? And that's where a lot of business owners just fail to take that next step. They they build it in their minds, they get scared, and they don't want to take the action because frankly it's just scary. And you don't need the bells and whistles. You don't need a guy like me. You don't need a bunch of stuff to get started. You just need the idea and how you're going to get there. So the next step, right, is now we've got the idea. We finally took a step. We started talking to people. Okay. Well, in this initial stage of business, there's going to be jobs that you don't necessarily want to take, or you may not make a lot of money on, but you know what? It gets your name out there. It's a customer. It's someone that goes in your database that you can hopefully follow up with later. It's someone that could hopefully refer you out to the next person, maybe their neighbor, right? I don't know what service you might be offering, right? What product, but as a business owner, someone, it's just that first step, right? That first customer, the second customer, getting your name out there. Then once some cash starts flowing in, right? We've got some bank account set up, hopefully some credit cards. We've got something. Now we've got some cash, we've got some revenue, we've got an idea, right? We've got a product, service, and some people are biting on it. Well, through this experience, plane's taking off, right? We're probably starting off with a little single prop, just a single piston prop, nothing too crazy. We got in the air. Well, now, maybe we need to refine The air fuel mixture ratio, right? Do we need a little bit more fuel with the amount of air we're taking in? What do we need to kind of refine the ability to fly this plane? And that's where, through these jobs, these services, these items that we've provided to customers, start to help understand how to better improve that airplane, right? As we're flying it. And this is where I see all too often founders, business owners obtain too much pride, or they feel that certain things are beneath them, and that's not what it takes to start and start growing or building something for a business. You have to take some of those low end jobs. You have to take some of this material to understand how to tweak, improve, and really sell your service or your product, right? You start getting feedback. Someone was a little upset that, maybe books weren't done in time, or the install for an HVAC unit wasn't done properly, or some landscape job, all of a sudden, there's weeds and someone didn't sell them on the landscape fabric to try and prevent weeds. Something of that nature, right? There's these little tweaks, there's these little things that just have to happen as you start your first sale, your first service, your first product. From there, now as you tweak that air fuel mixture ratio, right? As you tweak and fine tune this offering, right? Then we get into, well, now we can probably put together some marketing. Well, what's your hook? How are you getting to the home, or how are you getting to the business? How are you getting involved with someone who might be seeking your services? Well, we've got Google, and we've got Google local service ads, Google PPC. We've got, do I have any reviews? Do I have anything that's going to help boost that listing with Google? Do I have a product? Do I have a statement? Do I have a price point that's going to help hook a customer? Is it a residential customer? Is it a B2B customer? What is this customer, and what's that hook, right? What's my offering to get to that sale, right? Is it on a bookkeeping, is it a free, 1 hour review of financials? Is it is it a simple tune-up? Is it a simple free home inspection? What is it that you are now going to market in order to get in front of the customer? All right. And this is where a lot of business owners just struggle to understand what that hook needs to be. Because then you get the hook, you get the lead, right? So we get the lead. Now we're moving on, and a lead needs to be booked. So now we have a booking rate. We get into booking a lead, and now we've gotten kind of to this next step of a business. We had an idea, we tweaked it. Now we've got some marketing, and people are starting to know who we are. People are starting to understand the name, right? They're searching for roofs. They're searching for landscape. They're looking for vehicle service. They're looking for, whatever that item might be. And now these cookies that are out there on the internet are helping steer your marketing in front of those people that are searching for these items. Now your name's getting out there. You're getting the brand recognition, right? We tweak that air fuel mixture ratio as we're flying this plane. Well, now leads aren't a problem. We're starting to get leads. Well, now what's the next step? Okay, well, now this next step is we're starting to get into some operations. How are we booking the lead? What type of call types, or what type of offerings are they booking? Then what's our close rate? What's our conversion rate? And what is a conversion? In home services, there's multiple types of conversions. You're looking for some of the low-hanging fruit all the way to your home runs. What do those conversions look like? How do you separate those conversions to watch top tier sales guys versus maybe guys that are upcomers or up and comers, versus the entry level guys that are still getting through your sales process, still learning it, still understanding what it takes to be this technician, or to be, an installer, or to be a salesman, or to be a consultant, or whatever that service or product might be, right? Whether it's B2B or B2C. And so now that's that next step. How do we refine how you as a founder sold it? How do you train that to your sales crew, or to your technicians, or to your consultants, right? your front line. How are you going to continue to improve that process, right? Because it's often said like revenue fixes all, which is not necessarily the case, right? We can't just throw more money at losses if it's not converting properly or not converting profitably. But we need to keep fueling this plane. So how do we do? Well, we've got to keep money flowing, right? Cash flow and profitability are different. You can still lose money, but if you're cash flowing, we can keep going month over month until we fine tune, that product offering and that price. Early on in companies stages, companies often don't profit as much on a gross profit margin, but they keep more at the end of the day, right? Their net profit because they don't have the overhead. Then scaling happens and you see a little bit of that pivot and they're kind of holding price, but now they've got more overhead. So this next step, idea, marketing, now we're into operations. Now we're into scaling more efficiently, right? We're into the booking rates, we're into what's working on marketing, what's not working, we're into, improving our installation or completion of a sale. Um, we're tracking metrics of people's time, of people's commissions, of people's flow of essentially the dollar through the business, right? So where are we losing parts of this dollar and are we losing them efficiently or are we losing too much at any given stage? So now this company that we've been kind of talking about or rolling through, right? We had the idea. Now we're into marketing. Now we're into even further tuning, that air fuel mixture ratio by improving our offering, improving our pricing, improving our model, or, even the next step. Now that we've gotten enough customers and we're starting to flow enough revenue and we're starting to work with vendors more, now what's the next step? Well, do we have terms with our vendors? Do we have proper cash flow? Are we working with a bank appropriately to have a line of credit built in? Do we understand the product price that we're paying for our material or our equipment or whatever it might be? Have we negotiated the best price with those vendors? How are we working with our vendor relationships to improve the business outside of just vendor terms? How are we working towards, in most cases, are there finance companies that are willing to finance business to business transactions or business to consumer, right? B2C. Have we built in the finance price appropriately so we don't lose money on dealer fees? This is kind of that next step. Okay. Now we're really turning, now at this point, we're probably 10, 15, 20 million in revenue. Now what's next? Oh, well, now it's management. Now we've got crews, right? Now we've got bigger teams, maybe a little bit more in the operations side. Business owner still feels like they have too many hats they're wearing. Well, now we get into management, at this point, probably an accounting department, maybe one or two people there, maybe one in payroll. You're talking about CSRs or someone who's really kind of manning the incoming phone calls. And also, there's enough availability, right? They're doing some outbound. They're dialing old customers or they're confirming appointments. They're confirming items are being followed up on. If you're in a consulting world, right? Project management, they're helping out on that front. So now this next step is getting some management in place, right? We've built some management, and maybe some of that management's more of an upgraded software. Are we going from Excel spreadsheets to House Call Pro to Service Titan to Field Edge? Are we going to Microsoft Business Central? Are we going to, on an accounting basis outside of Microsoft? Are we going from QuickBooks to Sage to Oracle to, are we looking at additional softwares to help streamline any of these areas to also gain efficiency or improvements where we don't have to do additional hires because hopefully these softwares and these systems are continuing to improve, right? But where do we need to make the investment? Do the business owners understand what that investment looks like? Was it part of a 5-year plan? And this is where now at this point, I've seen business owners struggle. They failed to get into this next kind of scaling segment. We had the idea. started selling, started marketing. Now we've got revenue. Now we've got some operations. Well, what's next? How are we moving this company forward? Right. So now we get into, really what's helping these organizations get to this next step. And this is where I've also seen a lot of business owners stall. They freak out. Ooh, can I afford to bring on someone for 15, 20, $30,000 a month? Can I bring on that manager? The biggest thing I've seen here is needing to understand the investment that's being made in the business by the cash flows generated by the business. Because this is what separates scaling, right? Driving a business into scalability, as well as getting into a position of, how are we fine staying where we're at? I'm happy making $4 or $5 million in revenue a year. Me and my, other partners are fine walking away with 200,000 a year, you know, but we want to be able to leave this to our children. Well, is 4 or 5 million a year going to cover it? Is it 10? Is it 15? Is it 20? How much is going to cover that idea of maybe leaving it to the children or leaving it to, other staff members that have helped build the company and want to buy into the company? What are the ways that we want to scale this business so it makes sense for those involved, or how this company is going to continue beyond my days of working, or the founders' days of working. And this is where, again, founders stall. They don't want to scale, or they don't think they want to scale. They feel comfortable. This is a statement I've always said. I can't remember where I've heard it, but growth is always in the uncomfortable. If you're not growing every year at a reasonable rate, then unfortunately you're already failing. You're already losing. What happens if there's a downturn in the market, like some people are worried about even in today's market? Is there a downturn? What does that do to the organization? And if you don't already have some of these items in place, and we're not doing marketing, we're not getting our name out there, we're not driving, more revenue, then if your revenue starts dropping off because your word of mouth dropped off, no one can afford anything, and you don't have consumer financing in place, or now the consumer financing has become too expensive and no one has cash, how are you going to sustain that? How are you going to sustain the loss? Can you personally afford that loss as a founder, as an owner? These are all key components. And this is where, again, I see founders stall. They stall at 5, they stall at 10, they stall at 15, they stall at 20 because it's scary. And they forget about what it took to get to where they're even at today. It's this growth that is the most important component to making sure you don't lose out in the market. So, I was just actually with a group earlier, and there was an understanding that potentially, we were going to assist with maybe some easy accounting type software, management, help with their books, maybe some sales tax material. And, that's fine. That's easy stuff. That's affordable. It's not hard to help manage through, cleaning that up, or getting someone into a more in tune depth of their financials. But he was missing the mark. He didn't understand. He kind of wanted to grow, but he didn't want to grow. And that's something that just needs to be understood. What is the next phase of the company you founded? Are we working towards buying more companies to take more market share? Are we lowering our margins and spending more on marketing to take market share organically? Are we wanting to just stay stagnant because we're just fine working 20, 30 hours a week for what you're earning? And it's not that it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of work. No matter what, something's hard. Choose your hard. And this is where I would advise anybody listening and anybody who's looking to grow and scale. There's all these companies out there. There's Alex Ramazzi, he's a great guy. I listen to a lot of his stuff. He's got some great knowledge, right? And at the end of the day, a lot of it boils down to, right, we got to take action. You got to understand your funnels. You've got to understand what it takes to create this $100 million offer. You got to understand, right, we've got to have a hook. We got to have an offer. We got to have something, right? And we got to take so many times at bat. Pace Morby, I've known him a while. He has focused on, again, take action. It's all about just taking action. He has found a different way to work with sellers to give them a price point that works. And he has made one heck of an empire out of it. And he understands he wants to keep growing because it's not just about him, right? It's not just about him. It's about these other families that are relying on him to help provide jobs. So, what are we going to do as listeners, as founders, as owners to understand what it takes to continue to grow and scale? This isn't just about me. This is about those that I serve, right? A lot of founders have an open heart. They care. So how are we going to continue to drive this business for those that have helped scale the business, help grow it to where it's at today? What are we going to do to help ensure that there's jobs for people, not only just for ourselves, right? We don't want to go back in the field. We don't want to go back to doing the grunt work. We spend our time. Taking action is the most important thing any founder and anyone listening, any executive, any manager, anyone that is looking to progress in life, it's just take action. If you sit down on your booty all day and you go, gosh, man, I just wish I had more money. Well, get off your butt and go figure out how to make the money. Make the phone calls, right? That's what Alex says. Alex Ramoisi's big on just do what's uncomfortable. If it's uncomfortable and you're putting it off, there's probably a reason why. And it's probably the thing that's actually going to help you grow. Go do it. Get off your booty and go make it happen. Guys like us, guys like me, growth by the numbers, there's a million of us out there. We'll all help you. Some of us have different experience. I'm a big private equity guy. I know what it takes to go get involved with these guys. I know what it takes to scale it. I know what it takes to exit. I'm a big, buy and build strategy guy. So if you want to buy and build businesses and you want to scale it to that degree, let's have a conversation. You want to get into an ESOP or you want to get into different ways that your individual contributors can get into that market? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's build that. No problem. That's easy breezy. You want to understand what it takes to get into banking relationships, depending on the size of revenue, depending on the size of cash you have? Let's have that conversation. You want marketing? I can tell you what your marketing's doing, but I'm not a marketing guy. I have partners. I have those that I've scaled with that I would have no problem making introductions to. Absolutely, let's make it happen. I'll also help you understand where to spend it, how to spend it, and do we trust them or not? 100%. If you want that type of help, and you want to grow, you want to scale, you want to do that, absolutely. If you want to just stay stagnant and you just want to know where your numbers are at, we have a program that helps you with that. If you want to understand if you're making enough on a gross margin basis, you want to put together a budget, a projection, a forecast. You want to work with banks to do some simple SBA to maybe do, buy some new vans or trucks or whatever. Great. That's simple. We have a program that will help with that. It's super affordable. It's low hanging fruit for us. Bread and butter is going to be scale. If you want to scale and exit, whether that's to future employees, your children, their children's children, or you want to get to private equity and you want to create that generational wealth, that's where we shine. That's what we do best. There's CPAs and then there's FP&A people, two types of CFOs, two types of looking at finance and accounting. There's GAAP, right? GAAP is what controls, really how things are going to be accounted for. Controlling that's not that difficult. You want a CPA? I'm not a CPA. My firm, I've got some. The primary focus is making sure we take a CPA's numbers, we partner with some tax advisors, and then we marry all these numbers together to help fly or build the plane while it's flying. What's working, what's not, here's the numbers to it. How many days on cash? Well, if sales drop, how, if we cut XYZ, this is how much more cash we could hold on to. We could keep this. We could keep this level of staff up to this price point, right? That's what FP&A, that's what growth by the numbers is for. You're going to start taking action, and we're going to show how to do it efficiently. Maybe, this marketing metric we went down, just, this new way we wanted to market just didn't work out 90 days in. Take the action and let guys like us help lighten the burden. We're nerds. We love the numbers. Let us work in them. Let us provide a certain number of KPIs, right? The core KPIs to your business. Let's have them provided to you by 6 in the morning. We'll jump on strategic calls first thing. Help build a daily agenda. Help build a weekly agenda. Our job is to strategically partner with founders and owners to help them scale. We can scale rapidly for those that are willing to. We can do buy and build strategies. We can partner up with the right financing groups to help do that. If the goal is to create generational wealth, or the goal is to have family take it over, or the goal is to have someone else step in and run the company, that's what we are for. For those that are listening that are trying to understand what we're even talking about today, in a simple wrap up, the core components of what we're talking about today is taking action over inaction and building the plane while we're flying it. You will never get anywhere if you try to build the full plane on the ground before you take off. You might have to upgrade your plane midair. That's okay. We'll figure out how to get them aligned, parachute to the next one, and let's go. Take action over inaction and let guys like us help you. We do it affordably, because if we don't, well, it kind of goes against what we're talking about. It goes against our core belief. We will scale profitably. Let us help you. Take the action. If you don't even know where to start, let us help you take that action. We'll help you figure out where to go next. We'll take a look at what's working. Do we need to add a vertical, right? Or another like revenue line item for those that don't understand what a vertical is, right? If you're in doing hardscapes, is it offering landscape services now to partner or be an add-on service onto your hardscape business that you do? If you install windows, do you now start offering window cleaning? Maybe soft washing while you're out at a home? Are we looking at buying a manufacturing plant if we don't have one? Would that help? There's different things that we can all look at. Well, let's do it. Let us help you figure out where that next investment, because there's cash flow in the business, to be able to happen. I promise you, if you're at 1 million, 5 million is right around the corner and it's easy to get to. If you're at 5 million and you're looking at 20, I promise you that's a lot easier. We're at 5 million in revenue. We could probably turn into 20 million real quick. 5 million, we can start looking at doing an acquisition. Maybe we do that. We double our revenue real fast. We do one acquisition. If you're at 20 million, maybe we can do a couple more acquisitions. If you don't want to do the acquisitions, maybe it's just more money on marketing. We're willing to spend a little bit more. That's what we're here for. Thank you for listening today. This was a little longer of an episode. Again, just to wrap up, inaction will kill a company. What matters is taking action, building the plane while it's flying, and having strategic partners align to make sure you do it right. There's going to be mistakes made along the way. Let's just limit those. Let's be a little bit more strategic in the way that we look at the next level of investments. Everything we do in a business can be tracked. Let us help you track it. Don't feel that you need to take that burden on as a founder. It's what we are for. We will help you build your accounting department, help you build your numbers, help you be bankable, and turn your dream into a reality. We will create enough revenue. We will help you understand where it's going, how to keep it. So how you offset this inflation. Everyone's talking about an unknown market. Bull crap. If we're small enough, we will figure out how to make that market happen. If we're the big boy in the marketplace, great. We'll start taking more markets. I promise you, there's a way to make it happen. And that's what we are here for. Again, thanks for listening to Growth by the Numbers. Look forward to hearing from you guys next time.